So thank you for everyone coming to the privacy talk. I'm very honored to invite Gonzalo from Munich in Germany. So he's a very excellent researcher, privacy enhancing technology and metaverse field. I'm very proud of being here with him today, this moment. Thank you for Gonzalo coming to the privacy talk.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
I'd like to start to share his profile. Gonzalo is a PhD student in computer science at TU Munich. He specializes in how to improve the applicability of privacy-enhancing technology, namely differential privacy in data sharing, analytics, and applications. He's working on many excellent research. I'm happy to explore his publications and on his interest. So I'd like to move to today's interview agenda. At the first, I'm happy to talk with him about his activity. So Gonzalo, could you tell us about why did you become interested in the privacy enhancing technology?
Yeah, sure. So I started my PhD actually in the field of blockchains, and my supervisor and other co-workers were interested in seeing how you could actually exchange data or perform, like do data markets in a decentralized way with blockchains, IPFS, and so on. But then I saw that blockchain in itself is a privacy anti-pattern because you are replicating data across multiple nodes and you cannot delete them. So then I got into seeing how I could potentially solve part of the privacy issues of the blockchain. And then I discovered that privacy is a separate field and very interesting. And therefore I kind of fell into this privacy hole and I couldn't escape. And actually it's full of different technologies that are fun to work with and open challenges as well. So then I made the topic of my PhD to be privacy enhancing technologies, and in particular, differential privacy.
I see. Yeah, I think I'm also involved in the blockchain field. I think this kind of the new technology has been like the strong infrastructures based on the decentralized networks. I think that you are especially working on the some of the research activity at this moment. So could you tell us about your research field as well?
Yeah, so in particular, amongst all the privacy enhancing technologies that there are, I researched differential privacy, which is a context agnostic mathematical formulation of privacy. It is very useful because you can actually quantify privacy. You don't see privacy as a 0 or a 1, you can see it as a continuum, and you can tune how much privacy you want to preserve. And usually something, or let's say a function, fulfills differential privacy when the output of that function cannot be distinguished between one input that had data element versus another that didn't have that data element. So if you are an adversary that wants to figure out based on the output what was the input, you cannot tell which data element was included in the initial data set. And this property gives you plausible deniability. So if you are in the data set that is being analyzed through a process that fulfills differential privacy, you are protected, which resonates very well with the opt-out option of GDPR. So when you browse and they ask you if you are okay with the cookies, you can opt out. So kind of gives that quality to analysis that fulfill differential privacy, because it is as good as if you are not in that data set. And it's a very, very interesting privacy definition. It's among academics is the golden standard of privacy. It's adaptable to many cases, and because it's context agnostic, that means that even if you have future information that doesn't exist today, or you use past information, you are not able to reverse engineer the output. So it's very neat. And my work specifically is connecting the theory with practice and see how you could actually apply differential privacy to different applications. What are the gaps in in research and in the industry that need to be filled so that differential privacy is more widely adopted, because it's worth pursuing in different applications, because it provides this very nice guarantee. And amongst my recent research topics, I've been working on. I just got a paper accepted in the PETS conference, where I let's say outline the gaps of differential privacy tooling that exists today that are open source and people can use, in the sense of, okay, what are they missing so that they are more deployable so companies can use them, or researchers and so on. So what are the missing building blocks or pieces? And also I researched how you could actually verify the use of differential privacy. So if for example, you have an application, and you want to make a poll about I don't know, the average age of your consumers or of certain group of people, and you want to send a poll, and then at the same time you want to preserve the privacy of these people, so they have to add noise to their, let's say, age, and then they will send you a noisy age, so from a client to the server, and the server will collect these noisy age values, and then it will make an average. And because the noise is centered around 0, the noise cancels out, and then you have a useful summary statistic of the people that you polled. However, the clients might be malicious, and they might just sample whatever noise. And I researched how to prove that indeed you used differential privacy and not any other random distribution to sample noise. So those were 2 specific works that I've done, but in summary, I work on seeing how I can bring differential privacy to practice.
That sounds very good. I think that differential privacy has been a many aspects to deploy in the some of the practical things for the public use as well. So maybe you have been published the many articles related to the collaborative research with other international researchers. I have read some of the article. So I'm personally curious, how did you find your partners? Maybe that you were in the university in Germany, but the other partners in the United States, it's been a very international. So why did you decide to work on the different background, the different academic history? So could you tell us your insight with it?
Yeah, so I think the best way to do research is through collaboration, because you can get to know different perspectives, and you can mix ideas, and I think that's how great research is done. And it's hard to find a good partner to collaborate, but I found 2 great partners, Johannes Sedelmeier from the Fraunhofer Institute, and with him I have collaborated in 2 publications, and Vivek Nair from UC Berkeley, and with him I also co-authored 2 publications. And I met Johannes Sedelmeier through work. I knew him from some years ago, and I met Vivek Nair from UC Berkeley through an old postdoc of his advisor, and with this person, Joseph Pinier, I writing a paper benchmarking differential privacy tools, and he is an old postdoc from Professor Don Song at UC Berkeley, and through him I asked for a recommendation, and that's how I arrived to the US in UC Berkeley, and that's where I met Vivek Nair, and that's where I mentioned the confluence of ideas happened, and then the research about privacy and virtual reality that you mentioned that you are interested in came to be.
Yeah, that's very awesome. I think privacy is like cross borders, that maybe the researchers should be collaborative in some fields to create innovations. I respect your actions. So I'm happy to move to the next topics. So you have published a very excellent book. I learned from your article as well. And on some of the article you mentioned about the privacy enhancing technology, enhance of the recent publications. So could you tell us a little bit about the history of privacy enhancing technology? How does it evolves here? Then what does the meaning of the privacy enhancing technology? It's so called the PETs.
Yeah, I think my correction, but it's not a book. I think in the future I might do a book, but for now it's a journal publication. It's a very extensive journal publication where I investigate the challenges of using privacy enhancing technologies today for data sharing and analytics. And there I provide an overview of the different PETs that exist. So let me give you this metaphor to explain privacy and security as well, because they are conflated sometimes. So I see, let's imagine a castle, okay? So in the castle, you have a wall and you have a citadel in the middle. And security would be the wall, like you prevent cyber attacks, you prevent basically unwarranted access to data. So you block people who should not have access to data from the data. And then privacy is about what's going on in the citadel, inside the castle. Inside that castle, there is data, which could be locked in some rooms. And then privacy is about how you protect data from people who actually have access to data, right? That's kind of like, it sounds like a not an oxymoron exactly, but kind of contradictory. So what the techniques that you can use, there are many traditional techniques like access control or who has privileges, right? So you could separate the system admin from the application admin so that they don't have access to the different data. And you can set access control policies so that, okay, I give you the keys to this room where the data is, but I only give you access to this locker within the room. And then you can only look at this, this, and that, right? So that's kind of you need as a company or as a research institution, you need to look at data, but at the same time, you have to protect the identities and the health values of those people or any other attributes. So again, in summary, security is about preventing unwarranted access to data from people who should not have access to data. Privacy is about protecting data from people who actually have access to data. And then there are technologies that are in between, like for example, zero knowledge proofs or NPCs. NPC that I see them as like gates within the wall, and then you can have access to data from outside, but without actually seeing the data. So that's what it is, and PETs enclose all this, and in particular, there are many interesting and exciting PETs that have become very strong in the past decade. So we have MPC, multi-party computation, and zero knowledge proofs, and which they are kind of the same bucket, and they allow you to compute without revealing the inputs. CKP, for example, allows you to attest that you are older than 18 without revealing exactly your age. And MPC allows us to compare, for example, the typical example used is who earns more money, and you or I, and then you kind of do a series of executions to reveal who earns more without revealing the inputs. So those are MPC and CKP. And then the ones that I'm more interested in, and I can tell you more the history of, is semantic anonymization techniques like differential privacy, and syntactic anonymization techniques like anonymity and its cousins. So syntactic techniques provide a property of the data, and semantic techniques provide a property of the process. So, and those properties are related to privacy. So a syntactic technique is k-anonymity, which came out around 2002, I think. And as the K in k-anonymity is about grouping people. Let's say you have a dataset with 100 people and you want to anonymize the dataset. So you would group groups of K people, and you cannot distinguish people within the groups of size K. And therefore, the probability of finding someone within that group is 1/k. And that gives you a, let's say, I call it factual anonymity because there is no proper formulation of privacy. It's not mathematical, let's say. And then you have the semantic techniques like differential privacy, and those are, that gives you a provable guarantee of privacy. That's what I do. And it came in 2006 from Cynthia Dwork, mainly, among other very important authors. And she proposed differential privacy for the first time. I think the publication it started with calibrating noise into something sensitivity. And since then, differential privacy has seen a lot of attention. Even the Census Bureau has used it for 2020. Microsoft also uses it. Apple uses it to you can actually go into your phone to see the epsilon value. This parameter that I mentioned to tweak how much privacy you preserve. And they use it to know which emojis you use. And until today, which there are multiple tools that you could use for differential privacy, and that's part of my research, investigating these tools. So basically, the history of privacy enhancing technologies, I think it was in the 90s with some, I don't remember the specifics, but some Canadian politician proposed this name, and since then, many of these techniques have been clustered together. And the most prominent ones would be differential privacy, zero knowledge proof, and secure multi-party computation as of now. And homomorphic encryption, for example, is another promising one, but it's a little bit behind in terms of performance. And synthetic data generation is also part of it. You can also use differential privacy for that. Yeah, so that's overall like the picture of privacy enhancing technology. This was a very long answer, but I hope that you get a picture.
Yeah, that's an amazing history. So maybe you have a lot of experiences in a privacy enhancing technology as for the researchers. So from your experience, is there any good field the privacy enhancing technology will be deployed in the practice and improving on the output through these new innovations?
Okay, I think differential privacy is close to is within a striking distance to be deployed widely in a few years. Then you have techniques like zero knowledge proofs. There's a lot of work on that, and it's being used at the moment a lot in the blockchain space, but I cannot talk in details about this. But I see a lot of researchers working on that. MPC works, multi-party computation works. The efficiency has to be improved, but it does work. Homomorphic encryption, as I mentioned, it will take some time for its performance. Maybe in the next year, maybe there is some breakthrough, but so far it needs more work in terms of performance. And I think synthetic data generation with differential privacy, they will go on par because it depends on the other. So that's how I see the deployability of these technologies at the moment.
Yeah, I expected this new technology is also the government interest at this moment. A lot of the regulator is discussing how privacy enhancing technology will be integrated into the political decisions. So might be very important to integrate this new innovation into the business and researchers in next decades. So yeah, let's move to the next topic. It's related to the very important innovation as well. It's a metaverse. So you have published related to the metaverse topic, as well as you have a very important inventions. I was very inspired and surprised. It's been a very interesting publications. So could you tell us your new invention is a MetaGuard? And you have this is a very interesting features inclusions.
Yeah, so unlike the privacy features that we are used to in today's internet, like VPNs, proxies, or incognito mode, or private browsers like DuckDuckGo or Brave. There is no such a thing in virtual reality, right? Like I don't know if you ever used VR headset, but when you put it on, there is no tab where you can click, I want to go incognito. There's nothing like that. And this is what we proposed. We proposed let's say the first stepping stone for producing an incognito mode for virtual reality, and which can also be applied to augmented reality. And it is based on differential privacy, as I was mentioning before. And we have an early stage proof of concept that you can actually fork from GitHub. And any application supporting, any VR application supporting Melon Loader can use our plugin for presenting the privacy in that such application. And yeah, I would like to any other questions specific to MetaGuard, of like how actually works, or how did it come to be? Just kindly ask me, because there's a lot of things that I could say about it. I don't know what exactly you want to focus on.
I'm quite curious, why came up this idea? Because in the metaverse space, is quite ambiguous to opt in of your data. So maybe that's one reason. But I think you have any essential inducement to invest in this new invention. So could you share any about the reasons?
Yeah. So when I went to Berkeley, I had the idea in mind that it is very tough to protect against privacy attacks in virtual reality, because there is a lot of data you are sharing. And let's say your phone or your laptop or your wearable can know some stuff about you, but when you are inside a virtual world, there is more things that they can learn about you, because you are interacting within the world, and the world could be constantly being monitored. So when I met Vivek Nair, he showed me his VR setup. He likes to play a lot VR. He's a esports player. He plays competitively, and I told him, hey, it would be interesting to know how much privacy leakage do these applications have, and he was interested in the matter. So we got together and worked on the first publication called Metadata, and in that we had a user study of 30 people. We program a escape room game, it's a fairly reasonable one, where these 30 participants individually had to go through certain virtual rooms and they were motivated to solve puzzles. But these puzzles contain hidden artifacts to reveal more information. For example, one room prompted users to move their body, and when they moved their body, they had to extend their arms in one position, and that you could measure their wingspan. And that gives you a biometric. You can fingerprint people with their wingspan. It's not unique, but you can, it's one of the things that you can use to identify people. And we did that for many other things. We measure physical fitness, so depending on how low you can squat. We measure acuity of vision. We even had the Montreal Cognitive Assessment Test for dementia hidden in the game. So basically, we proved that you can gamify virtual reality to extract more information. So if you are a malicious developer, you can hide privacy attacks in a virtual reality setting more easily than in a 2D screen, because you are immersed. So it's easier to fool users. So that's very, 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 let's say, it's scary to be open to this type of attacks. And we collected a lot more information. Basically, we had more than 30 data points, and like height, interpopular distance. And you might ask, like, why is this important, right? Why do I care that my height? If I can, you can gauge it when you walk down the street, right? And the problem is twofold. So the first one is that the more data you have, the easier it is to identify someone from an identification set. So if I have 30 data points, it's quite likely that those 30 data points are unique with respect to other people. So then you can actually identify that person. And that allows you to track that person across different applications. So if you have VPN on, yeah, sure, they cannot track your IP, but then they can profile you, and they can have these attributes from you, and then they can track you if they find the same attributes on another, individual joining another session. And the second thing that is important is that you can infer very sensitive information, demographics, like your age, ethnicity, income level, gender, from the primary attributes that we gathered. And with very high accuracy, we showed 100% accuracy. And that's also very scary, right? Like, I don't care, my height, but I don't know if I'm willing to give you my age, right? For health reasons or whatnot. So we had this publication. We showed the risks, the unprecedented risks that VR brings. You might say that many of those attacks can be done in other devices, but the unique thing about VR is that it combines everything. It contemporaneously brings everything together. And you could also see as the internet today, Web 2, or what the internet today has this attack surface, but if you are using VR, the attack surface increases. So the new attack surface has today no defenses, right? So that's what we want to provide, a new defense set that can provide protection against this new attack surface. And that's how we came up with MetaGuard. Hey, let's think about how we can protect against these types of attacks. And then we used, we thought about, okay, we could use differential privacy, the thing that I do for my PhD, apply it, right? My PhD thesis is improving the applicability of differential privacy. So we had to figure out how we apply differential privacy to a virtual reality application. And we used, in particular, local differential privacy to add noise to different biometrics locally. And then when you join a VR session in a server, then it relays information to other users. The other users and the server itself, they only see these differentially private values. And as I mentioned before, you cannot tell if a person or an individual data point is or is not in the data set. So this is the same. I don't know if that person is or is not in this session, right? It gives you this plausible deniability. And yeah, so that's how we came to the idea of MetaGuard and how more or less MetaGuard works.
Yeah, that's very scary. So for the user perspective, what they should be paying attention to use the metaverse environment, especially for the young kids, it's becoming to come to the digital world, but it's not easy to recognize the privacy risk themselves. Do you have any advice for the users should they pay attention when they use in the metaverse through the headset or some sort of device?
I mean, anybody has to be privacy conscious, even forget about the metaverse. Like, they have to be always privacy conscious when they surf the web. And the problem is that there is no, like, virtual reality is or augmented reality is very early stage, so there is not so much privacy protections that are in place, and unlike the current internet. So yeah, I cannot encourage anybody to use MetaGuard because it's not production ready, and I cannot encourage them to use I don't know, incognito mode in virtual reality because it doesn't exist. So I just you can only use your common sense and be careful of what the applications you are using, and like if you're in social VR, like in VR chat, just as in if as if when you are walking down the street, you just have to be careful with the people that you meet. It's the same thing in VR, and also be aware of self-disclosure, which it seems to be it could be a problem as well, because you might not realize that, I mean, you're seeing an avatar, but that's a person, and I don't know, they might share information that otherwise they wouldn't share with an agency, right? Like they can share where they live and so on. So just be careful, and yeah, keep an eye on the if MetaGuard ever makes it to production.
Yeah, I think your research, your invention is very helpful for the future users to
Thanks.
come on the safety privacy space on the metaverse field. So yeah, there is a very interesting topic with you that just talking. So lastly, could you give us any message as a researchers, as a professional of the privacy enhancing technology in the metaverse field? Maybe a lot of the people it's becoming interested in using the new innovations. Do you have any advice? You have any recommendations? It's very helpful for the newcomer.
I think one field that it would be interesting to see is the merge of hardware/safety privacy measures. Hardware or/slash firmware privacy measures, because you could, for example, use trusted execution environments at the server level or at the client level to execute stuff in a private manner. It will be interesting to see how you can make a GPU that is a trusted execution environment that hosts a GPU, not necessarily only a CPU, so they can run in clients, and therefore all the input data from other users is encrypted and only decrypted in this secure enclave. So there's no way that these attackers can actually collect information from you. And also to have, so MetaGuard is a software level protection, but it would be nice to have it at the firmware level, so that not even the application that you're running locally can know of your sensitive values. That would be interesting, or at least give special privileges to plugins like MetaGuard, so that they can interpose itself between the firmware and the application, and that way the application can also not read anything that is sensitive or the things that you might care about. And also one thing that to have in mind is the usability of privacy. So you cannot just so as I said, privacy is like a continuum. In one extreme you have I open everything, there's no privacy, everything is transparent. That's problematic. And in the other end you have 100% privacy, I don't share anything, but then you cannot do anything, right? So you have to find an optimal. And in VR is very important because usability is an important issue. Like you want to have a good experience in VR, and perhaps if you impose privacy, these user experiences degrade too much, and therefore nobody will use it. So a message I could tell to researchers, I would suggest humbly to really think about the impact on usability on the deployment of privacy enhancing technologies, and find that trade-off. And I think it helps to give a lot of options to users so they can choose how much privacy they want to preserve, and so they can come up with their own optimal way of protecting privacy while having a good time in virtual reality.
Yeah, thank you for the great message. I think your research and your challenges is continuously the work we should watch in your new publication. They're happy to share online and enhancing together. So that is very informative. So again, thank you for having this time, Gonzalo. That's been a very happy to discuss with you more. Then thank you for having again this moment.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you.